For years, if you were building a website, there was one golden rule you lived by. Fewer files equals a faster site. But is that still true today? Well, that's what we're going to break down in this explainer.
So let's just get right to it. The big question is, in a world that now runs on fancy new tech like HTTP/2, do we really need to worry about how many files a website is loading? Has that old advice just become, well, obsolete? To really get why this is even a question, we gotta take a little trip back in time. We need to understand how the web used to work back in the days of a protocol called HTTP/1.1. Okay, the best way to think about HTTP/1.1 is to picture a supermarket with only one checkout lane open. Now imagine the person in front of you has a cart overflowing with stuff and they want to pay with a stock of coupons. It doesn't matter that you're just standing there with a single carton of milk. You're stuck. You have to wait. So in web speak, that incredibly frustrating traffic jam has a name: head of line blocking. And this was the absolute villain of web performance for years. One single slow file, like a huge image, could hold up everything else behind it, making the entire web page feel like it was loading through molasses. But then, a hero showed up to save the day, a brand new standard called HTTP/2. And the secret weapon at the heart of HTTP/2 is a technology called multiplexing. Now that sounds super technical, I know, but the idea is actually brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of loading things one by one, we can now handle a whole bunch of requests all at the same time. And this really shows you the difference, right? We basically went from that single, slow-moving checkout lane to a massive multi-lane superhighway. Head of line blocking? Gone. The traffic jams just vanished. So, problem solved. The superhighway is built, the traffic is flowing freely, our work here is done, right? We can just load a million tiny files and everything will be super fast. Which brings us back to that crucial question. Now that the main bottleneck is gone, can we just stop counting requests altogether? Is it a free-for-all? And here's the twist. The answer is a firm no. You see, while the blocking is gone, every single request, no matter how small, still has a tiny bit of cost, a little bit of overhead. And when you have hundreds of those tiny costs, they start to add up. Strategy, it turns out, is more important than ever. Okay, so if we still have to be smart about this, what does the modern toolkit for optimizing websites actually look like? What are the strategies for this new era? First up is an old classic, but with a modern twist: bundling. This is where you combine a bunch of similar files, like your CSS or JavaScript, into one bigger file to cut down on the total number of requests. But this is where it gets really interesting, because there's a delicate balance. A little bundling is good, but over-bundling, where you cram your entire site's code into one gigantic file, is actually bad. Why? Think about it. If you change just one line of code, the user's browser has to re-download that entire huge file. All your caching benefits just went right out the window. Next up, a powerfully simple idea: lazy loading. It's just what it sounds like. Don't load something until the user actually needs to see it. Why force someone to download all the images at the very bottom of a long web page if they haven't even scrolled down there yet? It's a total game changer for initial page load times. Remember that old trick of combining a bunch of little icons into a single image called a sprite sheet? Well, that idea has gotten an upgrade. Today, we have more flexible approaches like SVG sprites or icon fonts that scale way better and are just easier to work with. And our last tool is called Inlining. This means you take a tiny asset, and I mean tiny, and you just paste it directly into your main HTML file. It saves a request, sure, but this one comes with a huge warning label. You have got to be so careful with this one. Every single character you inline makes your main HTML file bigger and slower to download. And even worse, that asset can't be cached separately by the browser. So if you use it on 10 different pages, it has to be downloaded 10 different times. Ouch. All right, so let's pull all these ideas together. Let's talk about the new philosophy of web performance. The single most important thing to take away from all this is that we've graduated. We're no longer playing the simple game of just counting requests and trying to get the number as low as possible. Instead, it's a much more strategic game of trade-offs. And this quote from the source material absolutely nails it. Don't overbundle, find a balance. It's about making smart choices for every asset, not just following one simple, outdated rule. And that, of course, leaves us with one final thought. Because just when we think we've got it figured out, the next evolution, HTTP 3, is already on the horizon, and it promises to change the game all over again. So we have to ask, how will this delicate balancing act, these rules of the road, have to evolve next? The optimization game, it seems, never really ends.